3 episodes a week compared to the 7 a week we did in training camp. Doing power rankings on Wednesday, just me and Justin. So no Rose. I'm Bobby Skinner. I'm here with Justin Penik. Justin, how we doing? How we feeling about the rankings of power?
Bobby Skinner, I'm glad you're with me this year. This was a lot of fun when I
Better
did it with
Dalton, aren't I?
I had a lot of fun when I did it with Dalton last year, but glad that this is part of football today now. It was something that kind of worked last year, and people love ranking things. That's one of the things I've learned through football Twitter over the last couple of years. Fans love ranking things. People love ranking things. Everybody loves ranking things. So we are going to do that every single week.
And people love getting mad at rankings. Like, even one of my favorite things, Justin, was my brother last year. He'd be like, their power rankings suck. So we're going to start it off with my favorite segment on these power rankings is what fan base will be the most mad at their power ranking. We don't got to spend a lot of time on it because we are going from bottom to top. Like, what fan base do you look at and they're going to be just mad at their rankings, Justin?
It should be the Saints because we're so different on the Saints. Like, you have them 18th, I have them 25th.
That's crazy to me.
I know, I do feel bad about that. Like, they just beat the crap out of the Panthers, but I'm not going to make 1 week of you beating the crap out of the Panthers. If you're a person that doesn't believe in the Saints, I'm not going to let week 1 beating the crap out of the Panthers change my mind out of anything. But 25th, you can argue, is too low for the Saints already to begin with. But I just don't believe in them.
That's fair. So I think there's a theme here. It's which team beat the crap out of a bad team in week 1 and it didn't move us at all. I think the Bucks will probably be the most mad. I think we have them at 19th. I have them 22nd. So you have them a little higher. So we'll get into all of it. Justin, you're going to introduce these. We're going to go through them. Take it away, my friend.
All right, so we're going to start off with the bottom tier. We don't have a name for that tier yet because we're not creative.
Just the bottom tier. We don't need to.
We're not creative. We're not creative people like Dalton Feely was last year. Last year we called it Caleb Williamsville, which I actually kind of like that. So if there's a quarterback that maybe emerges, we'll name it that tier. But let's go through we're going to go through 8, the bottom 8, and then the two teams in the middle, 4 groups of 8. You get it. Number 32. The Carolina Panthers. Number 31, the Denver Broncos. Number 30, the Washington Commanders. Number 29, the Las Vegas Raiders. Number 28, the New York Football Giants. Let the record show that Bobby Skinner and I actually had a 3-way tie for 30 through 28. I would have preferred to put the Giants lower, but regardless, number 27, we have the New England Patriots. Number 26, we have the Tennessee Titans. And man, number 25, we have the Atlanta Falcons. So, Bobby, a challenge that I had doing these power rankings is I don't want to overreact to 1 week of football, whether it's 1 week of good football or whether it's 1 week of bad football. And I'm going to be honest and I'm going to be real. If there's one team that I think we may be overreacting to, possibly, it is the Atlanta Falcons. Dropping them 25 is very, very far down.
So here's why I don't think it's overreacting. Because of how bad Kirk Cousins looks. So I saw the score of the game. I didn't get to watch that one live. And then I saw Kirk Cousins' box score. I think I might have seen the interceptions on Twitter. And I'm like, yeah, definitely a bad game for Kirk Cousins. Let me go watch it, right? It didn't really change much. Week 1, teams can have bad games, first game off the injury. Kirk Cousins was so bad in that game. And it wasn't just, oh, well, he had a bad game. It's the fact he doesn't look physically ready. He looks like he's on one leg, Justin. They didn't run any play action. I had never seen someone more immobile in the pocket. Like, never. I think Aaron Rodgers with the torn ACL or whatever in that playoff, or Phillip Rivers, like was more mobile than what Kirk Cousins was in that game. And I think this is going to get dysfunctional. If he's like this early on, you're going to have calls for Michael Penix, and they're not going to put him in because of the optics of it. I think they've screwed up their offseason a bit. And the fact that Drake London couldn't get anything going, they are the team that I am changing my tune on the most, is the Atlanta Falcons, because you can't win if your quarterback can't move at all.
I mean, so many plays out of the pistol too, which that was the
couldn't move him. They could not move him. And Bijan looked good, but they couldn't get him to enough. Like, until I can see Kirk Cousins move and be anything close to what he was, I'm kind of out on the Falcons.
You can also make the argument that the Steelers are just a really good defense, and the Steelers won a football game that they usually win. Like that.
I agree, but Kirk Cousins can't move. That's why I'm reacting. It's not because they had a bad game or Kirk Cousins had a bad game. He cannot move. Like, I watched him and I was like, this guy is not football ready. They
play Monday night against the Eagles, and the Falcons are 6.5 point favorites. I mean, you want to talk about a pass rush that can get after it and athletes on that defense that can go sideline to sideline. I mean, Bobby, my instinct almost wants to take the Eagles in that 6.5 point spread. Right?
Yeah. Again, like I'm really low on them, and I was ready to be excited and ready to go, but they are talented. They're not the most talented team in the NFL, right? Where it's just like, oh, drop the QB and everything's fixed. You drop the QB in and everything's pretty good, and now the QB may not be ready to go. So like, who's going to carry that team to wins until Kirk is ready to go?
Right.
Bijan. I mean, I like what we saw from the defense, and I think their defense is pretty damn good, but they face an offense that isn't going to really test them. So they lost to a team that played really bad on offense, didn't score a single touchdown. And are they going to win a shootout? Like no one's going to pick them against the Eagles. So I guess they can. I'll change my tune quick. I'll go back the other way if he looks good on Monday night. But until I see it, I'm not believing in the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, you had him 25th. I had him 22nd, and I part of me feels like Kirk is going to get it. Part of me feels like maybe it is. I don't even want to say rust because it looks physical. It's not rust when it seems like there's something physically wrong, right? We're experiencing that a little bit ourselves with our quarterback in Daniel Jones, where it's not just rust. You're actually like doing physically. You're doing things wrong. So I don't know if there is one situation and one quarterback where I feel like it can improve and it will get better. It is the Atlanta Falcons, and it is with Kirk Cousins. But facing those Philadelphia Eagles and that athletic defense, week 2, Monday Night Football on the road, yeesh. I don't know how much it's going to get better. We'll have to see. Eventually that easy schedule is going to kick in. We got to see it. But them starting 0-2 would suck. Any other thoughts on the Falcons? Because I actually want to move down. We didn't talk about Jaden Daniels' debut on our recap episode on Monday of Football Today. So I actually was able to go back and watch it. So I want to talk some Commanders. Any other thoughts on the Falcons?
No, I mean that's basically it. Like my thing is based on Kirk Cousins, and I'm not I've been someone who's probably more pro Kirk Cousins than the average Bear. And I'm out until I can see it. Yeah, but what do you got on Jaden Daniels and them Commanders?
I think he only had like 8 rushing attempts. It felt like more. if you just watch every single offensive play of the Commanders, it felt like more Jaden Daniels rushing. And I don't think he was particularly.
He had 15 attempps.
15? Maybe
he had 7 scrambles.
Or maybe that's what I was looking at. So 15 rushing, that feels right. Like that feels very right. I wasn't fully impressed with him throwing the ball. There was some deep shots at Terry McLaurin that were a little off target. One that was very off target to start the second half when he was kind of throwing into the sun, but Terry McLaurin had a couple steps. The sack that Joe Tryon had, where Yaya Diaby, who had like 5 pressures that game, where Yaya Diaby also got pressure, but Joe Tryon got the sack. Offensive line collapsed, but there was like 3 guys open that are right in front of, and I'm pretty sure Zach Ertz is even like calling for the football in the middle of the field, and Jaden Daniels doesn't pull the trigger. There was a third down where you had a number 14, a receiver with the complicated last name, runs a little like hitch route, button hook on a third down. Ball's inaccurate, kind of gets his hands on it, and it's 4th down. But regardless, like you look at like EPA per play, and you look at kind of like the overall production, they put 20 points on the board. The offense is going to get by, and there will be some good games from this Washington offense because Jaden Daniels is going to run. But the throwing aspect of his game and also the play calling aspect from Cliff Kingsbury, where sometimes we're running just 2 out routes on the sideline for our receivers, and then two of our slot receivers or tight ends are running just 2 curl routes. Like that's not a play call. That's not a professional NFL play call. But I do think Jaden Daniels' legs, it's going to make Jaden Daniels not look like a catastrophe and horrible year 1.
Yeah, because like you look at the box score stats for Jaden Daniels, and you're like, oh, that's not a bad debut. And then you go and watch it, you go look at some of the advanced metrics, and you're like, this is not overly impressive, right? It's not a disaster, but like you mentioned, I mean, they didn't complete a single pass over 10 yards, and there's some stuff where, like you said,
over 10 air yards, right?
10 air yards, yeah.
Yeah.
Like there'll be some, like you said, the legs will let him get by, but he was pressured 12 times. He threw the ball 4 times under, like he either scrambled or took a sack essentially, and he completed 1 pass. Like so, when you're under pressure 12 times, which isn't a lot by the way, that's pretty damn good, and you complete 1 pass while doing that, I'm worried about that. When you cannot get the ball to your receivers at all, right? Like you want to know who his leading wide receiver in yards was, Justin? It was Luke McCaffrey with 18 yards.
Oh boy.
The rest was throwing the ball to the running backs and Robinson and Eckler, and then a few to Zach Ertz. Like that's not a recipe for sustained success. There'll be some flash moments, but he has a lot of growing to do, and it's not like this offensive situation is great. But the real reason is their defense is absolutely awful. I mean,
Yeah.
that secondary is the worst in the NFL, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And Mike Evans and Chris Godwin absolutely just had a day. Maybe we'll talk
Even
about
Jalen McMillan got wide open for a touchdown. He dropped one earlier in the game where there's way too many busted coverages and guys just flat out losing.
Yeah, so that young and experienced secondary, really, they didn't. I don't think they did much to acknowledge that secondary this offseason. So I think it's going to have its rear its ugly head. But I really wanted to talk about Jaden Daniels and that offense and just kind of the same things that we talked about this offseason of not loving Cliff Kingsbury's offense. I saw a lot of that. Not being totally optimistic about Jaden. I will say it. Little disappointing he wasn't able to connect with Terry McLaurin. There were like two deep attempts that did go to Terry McLaurin. The one he was wide open to start the second half. And that would have maybe changed the game. It would have made it closer, and I think it would have put maybe a different energy in that game. And it certainly should have maybe sparked the Commanders. So if there is one thing I'm a little disappointed about, it's like I'm confident about Jaden Daniels and his ability to throw the deep ball on the sideline, and he kind of missed those opportunities. Didn't get a ton of them, but he did miss the opportunity that he had Terry McLaurin there. And then Terry McLaurin just wasn't involved in the game plan outside of that, I feel like, which is a shame.
So. Yeah. So it was not the best of games for really anybody on the Commanders, unless you like running back receiving yards.
Which I will say, hey, that's awesome. Where I think some of those plays, the Eckler play, there was an Eckler big play, there was a Brian Robinson big play where he caught the ball out of the backfield. I mean, those are nice. Where if you're calling deep concepts and you're pulling the defense out, and then you're checking the ball down to the running back, that's a nice play. I'm not going to sit here and complain about it, but like you said, the sustainability of it, I don't think that should be an identity of your explosive offense. I can't.
Absolutely.
Your running back's catching the ball out of the backfield. All right. And thanks for everybody hanging out. If you want to like the stream, we're going to be live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. for your podcast people. And then also podcast people, you are listening to this after the fact. It will be uploaded to podcast apps. All right, we're going to go forward. We are going to move on. If Mikey, you want to update the screen right now, because that's what we're going to do, because we're going to move to number 24 in our power rankings, and that is the Arizona Cardinals. After that, we have the Minnesota Vikings, the Saints, the Browns, the Colts, the Bucks, Steelers, and Bears. Bobby Skinner. And I want to update the numbers myself. We have Cardinals at 24, Vikings at 23, Saints at 22, Browns 21, Colts 20, Bucks 19, Steelers 18, and Bears at 17 to review it again. Bobby, what team do you want to start off with first?
I know you got the I guess we have 3 teams we want to talk on this. Where are you at with let's talk about the Steelers.
Yes.
Because I have this love-hate relationship with the Steelers where it's like, I want more for you. This franchise should be doing more than what they're doing, but they are just a figure out a way to win, good defense, do just enough on offense type of team. And man, I said it on the recap pod, they were a Pittsburgh Steelers meme on Sunday.
Yeah, I wanted to give them a little bit more of a watch on offense, and I wasn't able to. But the fun thing is that if you look at Justin Fields' spray chart, I mean, there's just nothing over the middle. There's nothing. There's not one attempt. There's not one catch. There's not a you could play Connect Four, you could play tic tac toe, you could put a whole rectangle and a whole big box in the center of the field and do whatever you want because Justin Fields is only throwing to the sideline. It really is. It was an Arthur Smith, Justin Fields, Pittsburgh Steeler meme of how they were able to operate on offense. But apparently, there were some Steelers fans in our comments of the last episode saying, the offense looked better than you thought. They were able to put 6 drives together where you're crossing over the 50-yard line. Right, 18 points. If it's all field goals, then that's 6 field goals and that's 6 drives. We're able to cross the 50-yard line. The offense did not.
I don't care what a Steelers fan says. They didn't. The only thing good was George Pickens throws or George Pickens catches down the field. Like if that's your definition of success, then sure, it looks better than what we thought. But that was the only offense that they generated.
Yeah.
Hey, and the Falcons have a good defense, right? But, they couldn't get anything going on the ground. And, Justin Fields, ran the ball 14 times. That was their entire offense. That doesn't feel. How does anyone feel good about that?
Jaylen Warren only touched the ball 4 times, so only 2 rushing attempts, and I think 2 receiving catches.
And that was like I know we don't talk fantasy football, but like whenever it'd be like Jaylen Warren, it's like I'm not touching Jaylen Warren, right? Like there's too much Arthur Smith. Like who is Arthur Smith going to pick out of that backfield for me?
Yep.
And Jaylen Warren, it looks like he's going to be that guy, and we know how good he was last year. If he's not going to get touches, which like he was honestly, in my opinion, their best part of their offense last year was Jaylen Warren. I thought that was better than George Pickens, but you can't have an offense that is George Pickens or bust with Justin Fields as your quarterback, who it looks like he is going to be their quarterback.
Yeah, it doesn't look pretty, but they get results. And it's the same argument that I feel like NFL people have every year, whether it's like, hey, this team shouldn't be good. This team shouldn't look good. This team shouldn't win football games, but they just do. And there's no, you want to know what? They have a kick-ass defense. They have a kick-ass defense with really good football players.
We have them ranked 18th on that. Justin. We have them ranked 18th in our power rankings. That's where they belong.
Yeah.
They got a pass rush that is killer. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, those guys are ballers. Like, TJ Watt played so good against,
Hey, took over.
Their tackles aren't the best in the NFL, but that's a really good Falcons offensive line. And there's young guys that are going to step up. Joey Porter Jr. looked phenomenal against whenever he was lined up on Drake London. Like, they're a really good defense. That's what they are, and they're an ugly offense that is capable of generating big plays to George Pickens and running a lot of play action. That's what they are.
And the Falcons did have, I know it was with a different defensive play call, but the Falcons did have one of the best run defenses in the NFL. I'm dying to see. Yeah. Arthur Smith's run offense, I'm pretty sure Arthur Smith's run offense of 2022 actually was efficient. Like, they were very efficient with Tyler Algier kind of leading the way. And then last year, it was nice with Algier and Bijan Robinson, but they were not efficient. So I think there is a world where we can be talking about, what, this Pittsburgh Steelers run offense with that young offensive line that has some guys that we like, and the duo of Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. Cordell Patterson did get more running attempts than Jaylen Warren, which is something that kind of worries me and bugs me a little bit, because I think Jaylen Warren is a very good, efficient running back. I think there is a world where we are saying eventually that, Steelers may not be able to throw the ball, and they're very contested catch, George Pickens reliant on being explosive, but they can run the damn ball pretty well. So
yeah,
that's kind of like
a top rushing offense for that offense to be successful. Yes. They can't just be a good rushing offense.
Yeah. So with Arthur Smith, I maybe can see it. It's just maybe that offensive line, maybe they're not ready for that at this point. But the running backs, I could see it. They have the dynamic duo. They have Cordell Patterson that they can go to in these funky little situations. So, and I like that. I like that the trio of people that they have in the backfield that they can hand the ball off to. Who do you want to go to next? I mean, I have the Cardinals highlighted simply because I maybe wanted to hear your thoughts. We didn't really talk about them on the Monday recap show and how they operated offense. Not a lot of target for, I think only like 1 or 2 targets for Marvin Harrison. Kyler Murray operated very well, but there was barely any throws above 10 plus air yards down the field. They got off to that early lead and couldn't seal the deal against the Buffalo Bills. So is there anything you want to touch on the Cardinals?
This is what I'll say with the Cardinals is I don't think they looked super impressive, and they played well against. Then they had a tight game with the Buffalo Bills, who we are both, who are viewed as one of the top teams in the AFC. So that week 1 game, that might end up being one of their worst offensive games, and they were still able to get some points on the board and compete with the Buffalo Bills. So if you're a Cardinals fan, I think you're just saying like, hey, you're not going to get – that's not the worst of us. But at the end of the day, there's no talent on that defense.
No, and it's a shame because I do think this offense is going to be fun. I think that running game is fun.
Yeah.
James Conner.
Yeah, James Conner is the most underrated back in the NFL, in my opinion. I think the passing offense is going to be fun with Kyler, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride. But they didn't have a great game on offense, but they don't have anybody on defense. Like there's just no. Name me their second best defensive player.
Can't.
It's Budda Baker's number 1, and then
they have that like white pass rusher who's like underrated. And I will say
Dennis Gardeck. Yeah, like I like Gardeck.
Zaven Collins, his transition, I will give Jonathan Gannon credit for that. But again, these aren't players that you want.
Yeah, Sean Murphy Bunting's probably their second best player in the NFL.
Nobody that stands out. Who do they have week 2? I'm trying to find it. They have the Rams. Ooh, the Rams at home. Cardinals -1.5.
Yeah, again, they're going to be a fun team, but they're just not going to win games this year.
They're favored.
But I do like how Jonathan Gannon has changed a little bit. They got more aggressive and didn't just sit back in quarters all day. So he is a coach that's capable of change, and I think they have a good offense coordinator. So they'll be coached up well. They'll have some fun games, but they're just not going to win games at the end of the year.
Yeah, but they were up 17-3.
Yeah, I agree. And then they lost, right? Which,
Josh Allen turns on Josh Allen and exposes that defense, and it's like, yeah, okay.
Teams with capable offenses are going to put up 30 points on them.
Yeah, for sure. I also want to. I want to talk about the Bucs, but we kind of talked about the Bucs a little bit when we talked about the Commanders. Are the Bucs too low here?
No, they're in my category of beat someone else besides the Commanders.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not like. I mean, the Lions, even if they don't beat the Lions, they can go up. They can go up these power rankings pretty high for me. But, the way I look at power rankings, especially after a week 1, where we're not letting come into play too much, is whoever the number 1 is team, how well do you match up against them in a playoff game? Right. And I'm not talking about just like specific matchup, but like, how you view them as a team. And there's just a lot more teams that I would rather pick in a playoff game than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I know they're going to lose their mind because they won a playoff game and they played the Detroit Lions tight.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have a lot of faith in that team. And beating the Commanders doesn't increase anything for me.
I really wanted to talk about them because I want to give Bucky Irving more carries. Rashad White. When do we get to the point where instead of being like, oh, it was Dave Canales on early downs, the run game scheme on early downs isn't great. I know we kind of liked Rashad White coming out of college, and I know he's not terrible, but some of the advanced metrics aren't fun. And then Bucky Irving comes in there, and besides a -4 run where Tristan Wirfs just got blown up, which that was rare to see. But Bucky Irving had some explosive plays in there. He showed some grit. He hits holes hard. He runs physical. So I liked what I saw out of Bucky Irving, and I'm wondering when the tides are going to start to turn a little bit, where Bucky Irving gets some more run in that backfield as a starter versus Rashad White. So I'm calling for that to happen sooner rather than later.
And if they get that run game going, they can be a pretty solid offense, right? Like that offensive line protected Baker really well. But I just got to see more against the Commanders, right? Like, this is why I know the Bucs eventually won a playoff game, right? But everyone shit talks the Saints. Well, they had the same exact record. Everyone shit talks the Panthers. The Bucs beat them 9-6 in what was it, the last week of the regular season or the week before?
Yeah.
Like, as fun as they are and that playoff win was, I'm not getting sold on that, and I'm not getting sold on a dub over the Commanders.
Right, but I am excited about the new offense coordinator. Like, I actually. It's crazy to say. I know people love Dave Canales, and Chris Rose says, "Oh, NFL people love Canales." I actually think it's Liam Cohen, right? Came from the Rams.
Yeah, Rams in Kentucky.
I actually really think that Liam Cohen, coming from that McVay mindset, I think that's an upgrade. In a way, I think it's an upgrade as a play caller, even if Canales is like this good coach. Funny enough, you mentioned how the Bucs play the Lions. You'll never guess who the Bucs are playing week 2.
Yeah, the Lions. That's what I'm saying. Is the Lions will be a good test for them. But
Bucks
like
+7.
we talk about the Bucks getting better. Like they lost Carlton Davis and Sean Murphy Bunting. Actually, sorry, Sean Murphy Bunting was on the Titans last year. But they lost Carlton Davis. I think Bryce Hall just went on IR. IR. Did he just go on IR? I should have looked that up before.
Who was this?
Bryce Hall.
Oh,
Yeah, Bryce Hall just went on IR. So we'll see. Lions will be a great test. If they play the Lions tight, I'll move them up in my power rankings. That's a guarantee. That's a Bobby Skinner guarantee right there.
yeah. Oh, and like I said, shout out to Yaya Diaby. He had 5 pressures. He looks
He
strong.
was a player we said that need to get better.
And he looked strong. Like, he looked strong. He was playing. I know the Washington offensive line isn't great. Lions offensive line is going to be a much better test. They're certainly a lot better, but he's a strong dude, man. And he played like his hair was on fire despite not getting the sacks or the hits. But he certainly put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and it stood out. So the Bucs are a team that I'm excited to see if they can continue to rise in these rankings. If they play the Lions well, I could see them moving up in these rankings next week, even if they don't come away with the W. Bobby Skinner, any other team in this tier that you want to talk about? We talked a lot about the Browns, and is putting the Browns this low? Is that too much of an early reaction to playing a good Cowboy team with the good defense? But Deshaun Watson is cooked and he's bad. So any other teams that you want to touch on before I talk about something? Obviously,
no, I guess we could have talked about the Browns. Yeah, let's do quick on the Browns because we could talk about them more. I mean, I said it going into the year. It's like I love this Browns defense, man. You can't ask them to do what they did last year. And Deshaun Watson delusion of like, well, could he get back to his old self? No, he can't. They're suck. They're screwed with this. Can we do a fight the chat segment?
Fight the chat.
Drew Alvarez says, can't believe y'all give more of a pass to Kirk Cousins than you do to Jaden Daniels as a rookie in his first game. We didn't. But the Falcons are just way more talented than Washington Commanders.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like why the Commanders are 30 is their secondary and their defense is going to, particularly their secondary, is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So
the next.
Well, here's what's next. We got to talk about.
Why don't you talk to us about something, Justin?
I'm going to talk to you about something. We got to talk about DraftKings because guess what? They said, "Wow, this show with you and Dalton Philly, Justin. This show is awesome. This power ranking show. DraftKings wants to be in every single week of what you guys are doing." Well, now Bobby Skinner's in the mix, and it's getting even better. TD Tutty taking it to the house, whatever you call a touchdown. They matter more at the DraftKings Sportsbook. And by the way, all these lines that I'm reading off, they're from DraftKings. They matter more at the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Right now, only customers who bet just $5 will instantly get $250 in bonus bets plus 1 month of NFL Plus Premium. Now, that's something we can all celebrate. I love NFL Plus Premium. I've been talking about it all the time on Talking Giants. Like, I've been able to put out 6 shorts in the span of 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, when I would put out 6 shorts in 1 week last year because I would have to scroll through all the all 22. I would have to manually find stuff. It's so easy to search stuff with NFL Plus Premium. And you get 1 month of it free if you just sign up with the DraftKings Sportsbook. You get if you bet $5 on anything, you get $250 in bonus bets, plus you get NFL Plus Premium, which I love. And if sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have a shot to win cash prizes. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers who use promo code football today, that's all one word. Bet $5 on any wager, get $250 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code football today, only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Thank you to the DraftKings Sportsbook for sponsoring every single week of our power rankings this year. Bobby Skinner, you'll be glad you did.
Be glad you did. Next.
Now, Mikey, if you can move the screen to the next teams, that would be great, so I can just read them off myself. But next, read them off. But it confuses me. Our spreadsheet confuses me with the numbers.
I don't have the spreadsheet. I wrote them down manually.
You want to know what? Then you go through it.
Good old manual labor right there. You see that? That's called manual labor. At number 16, we have the Jacksonville Jags. 15, the Los Angeles Chargers. 14, the Seattle Seahawks. 13, the Green Bay Packers. 12, the Miami Dolphins. Number 11, the New York Jets. Number 10, the Dallas Cowboys. And number 9, the Los Angeles Rams. Justin, which team do you want to talk about first?
I mean, I guess we could do our Monday Night Football recap right now since we have the Jets here.
You've been Mr. Jet, right?
I know.
How much did that throw you off?
Well, I'll tell you what, it gave me a nice little reminder that Nathaniel Hackett is the play caller of this offense.
And a
And
reminder that their offense is Garrett Wilson or bust, which is we talked the Jets up in our TPP. That was one of my biggest worries, was that right there.
their early down rushes were crazy. It was insane. Like, why are we spamming this over and over and over again when we have Aaron Rodgers? Why are we going first down run to second and long pass that's conservative just to face third downs on third and fourth down? They had a very positive EPA per play when throwing the ball. So third down wasn't the issue. It's the fact that they were facing so many third downs and their early down rushes were doing nothing. They were doing nothing. Aaron Rodgers is the king of the quick game, getting the ball out of your hands quick on early downs. I guarantee you that maybe could have been there if they chose to do it more. So it was a little frustrating. It was a reminder that Nathaniel Hackett's the play caller, and then stuff goes through your head of like, oh well, Nathaniel Hackett's here, and maybe why Aaron Rodgers won back-to-back MVPs is because he finally bought into Matt LaFleur's system, and it's not just Aaron Rodgers that can be the offense, call the offense, do everything, and control everything. So if there is one rust argument, though, if there is one quarterback that deserves rust, and it's kind of self-inflicted because the Jets chose not to play Aaron Rodgers during the preseason. They chose not to play him during the joint practices with the Commanders, taking away reps that day, even though it was raining. They chose for this team to look kind of rusty and disconnected. With same thing with the offensive line, because they have to keep both of their tackles healthy or else their season's over. If there's one team that does deserve a little bit of a rust argument, it is the New York Jets. But still, I thought that they were going to come out there and win the game, especially when you're talking about a Christian McCaffrey-less San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, so this is why you shouldn't panic if you're for the Jets. The 49ers are a team that can whip up on a lot of teams. That's number one right there, right? They can do that to any team in the NFL. They really can. They're, the running game should be better, right? Breece Hall's a great back in the NFL. I know, last year he was one of the worst for success rate, but that offensive line, that running game should get better. How good will it be? I think that's up to Nate Hackett. Defensively, I don't think they're going to put up another stinker like that defensively. They're too talented. Now, I am worried about the pass rush without Hassan Reddick, but Quinnen Williams is not going to have a game like that ever again. That might have been the worst game of Quinnen Williams' career.
They also ran away from him.
Yeah, and he just didn't play well. I don't care if you're double teamed or not. Quinnen Williams is someone who should be winning double teams. You're not going to have that type of game from Quinnen Williams again. But I do worry about the edges aren't this. Now that you've lost John Franklin Myers and Huff, not having Hassan Reddick there, man, that's a huge worry. But I'm not panicking about the Jets, but I do still think they're a flawed team. I think Nate Hackett is a bad offensive coordinator, and they targeted 5 guys in this game, and 2 of them were running backs in Breece Hall and Breon Allen. Right. So that's why Mike Williams was a dumb signing. I thought it was their only bad move of the offseason, unless you want to look at Hassan Reddick in hindsight. That was a bad move. And you don't Xavier Gibson is not a real slot option. And Malachi Corley was a bad draft pick, right? I know everyone gets so excited about, Mr. Yak. He's not a good wide receiver. This is a slot position that is begging for someone to take it. And he's going to have a nice play that buys you in, but he's not really a reliable option in that slot long term for them. So they just don't have options. So teams are gonna look to take away Garrett Wilson. And so yeah, I'm not panicking about the Jets, but championship contender wise, yeah, there's a lot of questions that aren't really there for other teams.
Yeah, now their schedule really lightens up where they're going to be playing the Titans, and this is exactly why I drafted the Jets defense in fantasy football. It's because I trusted that defense is going to turn around, but also I trust that they're gonna play all these teams that just are not good football teams, and I think they're gonna dominate them.
Yep.
They're gonna dominate them. But Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. You're right though. Aaron Rodgers and this Jets offense. I kind of just thought that. I mean, Allen Lazard did make a nice play down the field, and that was one of their only big plays. I just kind of thought, just by snapping our fingers, and this is Aaron Rodgers, that he's just going to make these guys. And part of me still thinks that. And this is week 1, and the 49ers are a talented team. They feel like they have something to prove, yada, 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 losing the Super Bowl. The 49ers were also arguably a rusty team too, because they had all these guys that, Trent Williams hasn't played. Brandon Ayuk didn't have a summer, and you saw him drop some footballs and have some plays, and Peyton Manning freaked out over that, which I love. Yeah, man, I still trust that the Jets can turn it around, though.
Yeah,
Like,
the 49ers are really good. Like, Tyron Smith is not going to have the performance. Like, there's guys who had bad performances that's not going to happen often. Tyron Smith, Quinnen Williams. Like, they're just, even Breece Hall, right? Because, Breece Hall is going to have much better performances than that guy. I wonder how successful their run game is going to be, even if he's getting yards and all that. But there's guys that are better than what they showed, and they will be better than what they are in week 1. So I don't panic about the Jets, but I do think expectations from within probably are a little tempered.
Yeah, and I will say we're getting comments right now saying Rodgers looked fine, and he did look fine. I mean, I even said on third downs, when it's on Aaron Rodgers and when it's on the quarterback to really throw the ball, Aaron Rodgers looked fine. But you do have to get better on early downs. Their early down performance was pitiful, and I think early down performance has a lot to do with play calling. Their early down performance was very, very bad, including them throwing the ball.
Nate Hackett's an awful offensive coordinator.
And really, I walk away from week 1 not being like, oh, Aaron Rodgers rusty, even though, it wasn't perfect. I don't walk away from week 1 being like, oh, Aaron Rodgers rusty or anything like this. I walk away saying they need to fucking get Hassan Reddick back. Like, that's imperative. Get him here in the building, not even get him back. And I'm like, oh, reminder, Nathaniel Hackett is the offensive coordinator. That's the thing that I walk away from week 1 saying. Rodgers looked fine. So,
yeah, the Jets will be fine. I still think they're a team that makes the playoffs, but there's I think within their expectations were pretty crazily high, and they might be a little tempered from that. I want to say I didn't notice. I like your shirt.
Thank you. I'm wearing a Ross Chastain shirt.
How about that?
Thank you.
All right. What do you want to hit on next?
What do we want to hit on next?
The Seahawks?
Yeah, do you have a chance to watch them a little bit? Leonard Williams had a tremendous game. I'm
so excited for that defense.
Byron Murphy, even though I don't think he necessarily put like a ton of pressures or sacks or hits on the board, didn't look like a rookie. Like, he looked really, really good.
At a position where rookies do take a little bit of time to come along, Byron Murphy looked good. Like, this is why I'm excited about the Seahawks. And I don't know where to put them in the NFC hierarchy, really. But go through and this has been my talking point on the Seahawks. You have Mike McDonald, who we all know is a good defensive coach. Tell me the bad starter on that defense.
There is. I don't look at anybody.
They have a good 11 across the board, and if Boye Mafe can do what he did on a consistent basis, which, like, that's a real game changer, because that's probably where they need the most help is the edge room, or where you thought. So if you're getting that, Derek Hall and Uchenna and Nwosu with that second spot, them handling their own. You got a defensive tackle group of Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams, and Jaron Reed. That's pretty damn good. You got a really good linebacker group of Baker and Dodson, and then that secondary can compete with anybody in the NFL. Like, and then you have the one defensive mind who you really got a head coaching job outside of one of 3. I'm an idiot. But the defensive mind that everyone wanted, and Mike McDonald, like, that defense is going to be sick. And offensively, they're not going to be one of the best teams in the NFL, but they can compete with anybody too.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to see him, and you could say that there are other teams that are better and that have proven more, but I'm high on Mike McDonald. I'm high on what they're doing. I'm high on their roster. Well, I think they have good football players. That's why I think we have them up this high.
Well, let's talk about this, right? Because we said Bucks, maybe people a little low. Bucks were 19, Seahawks are 14. Do you even think twice about who's the better team out of those two?
Like, if they were to do it. No, the Seahawks are more talented, but the way
Seahawks are a better team than Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
The way that I approach power rankings, though, and this may be different between you and I love this, but the way that I approach power rankings after doing it last year is I approached it, if these two teams play tomorrow, who wins? And I will say, let's just say if it's Bucks or home, because the Seahawks do have home field, like they have a home field advantage. If the Bucks are home, I think it's a toss up. Do you mute yourself?
I am muted. I'm taking like you asked me who's the better team. I'm taking the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think they are
like,
a better team.
I'm not debating that in my head. So I'm excited about the Seahawks. Is there anybody else in this tier you wanted to talk about?
Oh, is this the Packers tier?
Yeah. So we have the Packers at 13. I had them at what did I have them at?
You got them at 11.
I had them at 11. Well, it depends on how long Jordan Love's out, but they're going to lose every game until he's back. Right? They cannot win a game with Malik Willis as their quarterback.
You don't think
LaFleur like the Panthers?
You don't think LaFleur can pull out a Houdini act?
No, not with Malik Willis, and especially Malik Willis, brand new to the playbook.
I mean, this is Colts -3, right? Like,
you know me, I'm not the biggest Colts, fan this year, but I'm not even thinking twice about that.
Yeah.
You can't score points with Malik Willis as your QB.
Yeah, it's
and
tough,
and defenses are going to know it too. They're just going to come after you. Like they're going into this game saying, "Stop the run."
I mean, Christian Watson, get ready to run. Put on your track shoes, man, because maybe there's a shot of go and play action, and then you're running Watson on a post, and Watson's just burning everybody. That's the shot.
Yeah, like that's the thing. There can be a game plan where they, do something where they get a couple plays, but they're going to need a really good defensive performance. I mean, there's a reason why Malik Willis was. I can't even believe Malik Willis was traded for a 7th rounder, to be honest. Yeah. But they can't win a game with him starting a quarterback.
All right, we moving on. Top 8.
Yeah, next.
You're going. Actually, no, I have the top 8. I got it. Because now it's 8 and it's simple and there's less numbers. The Ravens are at number 8. The Bengals are at number 7. The Eagles are at number 6. The Bills at 5. The Texans at 4. The Lions at 3. The 49ers at 2. And the Kansas City Chiefs still reign supreme at number 1. Can I tell you my bold take for the week?
What's your bold take for the week?
I think the Raiders not only cover against the Ravens, I think the Raiders beat the Ravens.
Based off what?
Based off of I think the Raiders can dominate the Ravens' offensive line. And I think it's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be a yucky, bad game where it could be like an 18. Hey, I'll use the Steelers example, an 18-10 game where the Raiders beat the Ravens.
I mean, I think Lamar just trumps everything there. And by the way, we know this guy way too often. Who does Lamar has he really owned in the NFL?
Who's really owned?
Patrick Graham, the Raiders defensive coordinator.
Oh,
that week 1 game a few years ago where they spent like 56 points on him. Giants, Ravens in 2020. Lamar has had Patrick Graham's number.
But this is Antonio Pierce and Patrick Graham, which that's just a different combo of energy.
Okay, here's something. Here's a question. The Raiders. Everyone talked about how I'm crazy for the Chargers and how their talent is so bad on defense. Their talent is so bad on defense. The Raiders scored 10 points on that defense.
Yeah, not good.
The Raiders are awful. So I feel like if you're right, I'll do something. But here's the thing: like Lamar looked really good in week 1, and that was against a really good Chiefs defense. That was the first game of that offensive line. I think the Ravens are going to be fine. They're not a Super Bowl team, but I think they're going to be fine.
I had this thought after we recorded football. After we had we recorded that Thursday Night Football recap. I think saying Lamar had a good game is disrespectful to Lamar Jackson's great games that he's had. I think Lamar did enough to keep them in the football game and to give them a chance to win the football game, but I do not think Lamar Jackson overall Like, we're talking about a guy that has won multiple MVPs, a guy that I do consider to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, playoffs aside. I think calling what that was a good football game, especially when you only, when you're 3 for 10 on throws of air yards of 15 plus, or 10 plus yards, 15 plus air yards, missing that throw at the end of the game. I think that's disrespectful of Lamar Jackson's great elite play that he sometimes does show.
Okay, but he's someone who has had great game. Yeah, we're not talking about like some random dude. Like, yeah, he's won MVP twice. Like, you don't have to have we don't have to say it's one of your best games. Like, he played really well. The 6 most passing yards. He did all that rushing yards. Had all those rushing yards. Like, Zay Flowers was his wide receiver 1. He has Rashad Bateman as 2. Made Isaiah Likely 100+ yard receiver. Like, what? At some point, what more do you want the guy to do behind that bad offensive line?
Right. But
that bad offensive line is going to make it hard for them when they're playing playoff teams with good pass rushes. So that's why they're not top 3 like they would have been last year. But the Ravens, to me, I walk away from that game saying they're going to be fine. I thought the Chiefs had the opportunity to win that game by a lot more than they did.
Oh, they did. They controlled the game. But so there's the argument of
you're 1 play away from a 2-point conversion. You're a centimeter away from a 2-point conversion to win or lose that game.
Right.
Because of Lamar. Did he miss the throws at the end? Sure. Guess what he also did? Completed that pass to Rashad Bateman. Have all those so Lamar's fine.
Yeah. They need to dedicate and commit themselves to running the damn ball. They have to. Like, you signed Derrick Henry for a reason. Derrick Henry is a workhorse bell cow running back. Run the damn ball. This is your team. This is your identity. Continue using Isaiah Likely as the lead blocker. Patrick Ricard, his snap share should be above 50, 60%. There's a reason why you have these guys on the team. Run the damn ball. Do it against a bad football team. The Raiders, who did struggle against the run last week against the Chargers. So we're already getting, and I knew this was going to happen. Dalton Feely, I was very proud of ourselves. I was very proud of us last year. We would get the same comments about the Cincinnati Bengals. Same comments over and over again. Why are the Bengals this high even though they lost to a team that's 27th in your power rankings? Why are the Bengals this high despite losing? I don't care.
They do it every year. They do it every year. They do this shit.
They do this every year. So until I'm going to hold on hope. I'm going to hold on hope that the Bengals are going to turn it around. They're going to be bad through the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season because that's just what they are. And then they're going to turn it around. And I want to be the one that continues to look like a genius for having faith in them.
Yeah, it's because if we hadn't seen this story before, it'd be like, ooh, maybe the Bengals aren't that good. But Joe Burrow played really bad. There was no T. Higgins. They should figure it out. They have a good defensive coach, good defensive talent. They should figure it out. And like you said, they do this every single year. Again, think about how we view Joe Burrow, right? By them winning games in the playoffs, going to Super Bowl, winning going to the conference championship and being just that close to going to another Super Bowl. That stretch where they were beating the 49ers last year, and then Joe Burrow got hurt, and that was the end of their season. He is now 1-8 in week 1 and week 2. But despite all of those good things about him, week 1 and week 2, they're awful. So So I'm with you on that.
Dude, they have the Chiefs Sunday 4:30, and it's +6. Bengals +6. That's crazy. That's a crazy.
Now I'm picking the Chiefs to win that game though, so the Bengals are going to be 0-2.
Yeah. But you really think that the Chiefs can beat them by 6?
Oh, by 6? I don't know. But
yeah, that's the crazy part.
But I don't know who gives a damn about the spread when it comes to like the Chiefs are going to win that game. They're going to be 0-2.
Right.
Just like they had been in many of other years.
I don't know. I want the Bengals to be good. I picked them to be good. I picked them to win the Super Bowl this year. I want them to be good. But weeks 1 and week 2, first part of the season, you kind of just have to hold on and hold your breath.
Yeah, which is like frustrating, but it's just kind of, we've seen it before. If this was brand new, then I'd be a little more worried. And even if it wasn't the Bengals, there's just fluky shit that happens week 1 too.
Yeah. All right, I don't have any other team bolded in our spreadsheet here because I thought we would kind of just free flow through this conversation. I mean, here's the one thing, since hey, we talked about the Jets, we didn't formally do like a Monday Night Football recap. It's really impressive how the 49ers can just, we talk about their offensive line not being great, not even talk about it not being great. I don't think it's good outside of Trent Williams. Yet they just lean on people, man. They lean on people and they just kicked ass. And what is a good Jets front with a good Jets front seven, including those linebackers too. They kicked ass. Kicked ass. You're
Muted. I want to save Bill's conversation for after they play on primetime Thursday Night Football. But I'm sure people will be like, why are they so high? I think they're going to figure out. I think they have, Josh Allen probably had the best QB performance of week 1. Let me ask you this. Where is the drop off from the top tier for you? For me, it's after 3.
Yeah,
I look at the Chiefs, the 49ers, and the Lions, and then after that, there's a drop off.
For me, it's also after 3. But the Texans are. I do think the Texans are close, and also the Eagles have the potential to be close too. But they have some issues that they need to.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts
need to fix.
Pretty sloppy in that game where I think the Eagles are going to be good this year. My line has been they're too talented to fail, but I can't put them in that next tier until Jalen Hurts just looks really sharp.
I do think the Texans can be close because Joe Mixon looked really good. Like he looked fast, he looked explosive.
Yeah,
making good decisions. And that was like the thing. That was like the thing with the Texans. We want to run the ball a lot in early downs with Bobby Slowick, but we're putting CJ Stroud in these impossible. And he was still really good on 3rd down, by the way. The Texans won the game on 3rd and 4th.
Oh down. Yeah, he was dominant on 3rd down. I mean, I had the stats for. I think he was 9 for 9, and like 2 scrambles for 15 yards on 3rd down, 3rd and 4th down.
And Stephon Diggs had both of his touchdowns on 3rd and 4th down as well. So they were really good, and I consider them. But I do think there is a gap between the front 3. The Lions are there, the 49ers, the Chiefs, and then I think the Texans are close, but there is a cutoff after 3 for me.
Okay, yeah, so I'm right there with you. All right, so that'll be our week 1 power rankings. Let us know what you think. Threaten Justin with physical violence.
Yep.
And we'll be back on Friday for a full week 2 preview and recap of Thursday Night Football. Until then, this is Football Today.